Welcome to episode 15 of the Shamrock Green Room, your favorite podcast highlighting everything about Scotus Central Catholic and Columbus Catholic schools. Each episode, we discuss what it's like to be a Shamrock. Whether that is a current student, a teacher, an alum, or supporter, we want to hear your stories on why this is such a special place in education. I'm your host, Jon Brezenski, 1998 graduate, former boys head soccer coach, assistant football coach, and current assistant coach for the girls soccer program. Today, I'm joined by Jill Kruse Zaruba. Jill is a 1993 graduate. She's currently the supervisor at Wiggles and Giggles here in Columbus. I'm excited to share her story today as a Shamrock alum, a parent, a supporter, and also a community member. Jill, welcome to the Shamrock Green Room Podcast. This is going to be fun today.
Thanks, John. Glad I'm here.
It took a little bit of convincing to get you in here, but I'm glad you decided to come. This is going to be a good day.
Let's hope so.
So let's just get right in. So share the Kruse story. Tell us about your parents. Tell us about your siblings, because your sibling path between the schools in Columbus is a little bit different.
Yeah, it actually is. So I grew up on a farm by Lake Oconee. Now people are probably more familiar with that area. And so, yeah, my path is a little bit different. I wasn't a typical, Catholic school kid back in the day. So I had two older brothers, Mike and Corey, and I have a younger sister, Kelly. We all went to St. Isidore's for elementary school. However, I actually went to kindergarten in Platte Center because St. Isidore's didn't have a kindergarten yet. And then we all went through 8th grade to Scotus. Living out in the country, we were in the Lakeview School District. So my parents then gave us the choice if we wanted to go to Lakeview or Scotus for high school. And,
okay.
Yep. My brothers played, baseball in Platte Center. We did 4-H. I think I might have been the only kid at Scotus that was showing pigs at the Platte County Fair in the summer.
At the time, yeah.
It's changed now.
It's changed a lot.
It's totally changed now.
There's a lot of kids involved.
Yes, and I love that because 4-H really shaped my childhood, and I met so many families that went to Lakeview and Scotus, and so I just had a lot of friends across both school systems, and that was really cool. So my brothers went to Lakeview, and my sister and I stayed at Scotus. I don't think we had any intentions of leaving our friends at that point.
Sure. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize your brothers went to school through elementary or through junior high at Scotus?
Through junior high.
And then they switched?
Yes, they both went through 8th grade to Scotus.
And was that just to continue in the farming area, or did they just decide to go that route? Or
I'm trying to think. I actually really don't know. I never really thought about it. And, my oldest brother, Mike, I think always intended to go to Lakeview. But, boy, my brother Corey had a terrible time deciding.
Really?
He loved Scotus football, and he really enjoyed his friends. And, it was a really hard decision for him.
What year did those guys graduate from Lakeview then?
Mike was 86 and Corey was 88.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I got to know Corey just because, coaching youth basketball, our kids were the same. Our kids were the same age. As Corey and I's kids were the same age. So, Libby and
Jordan, probably?
No.
Jenna,
yes.
Yeah.
So, we coached youth basketball together. So, I got soccer, obviously. So, I crossed paths with him a lot.
Right.
So, I didn't know that.
Yeah, those Kearney Catholic stars.
And then Kelly was just you were a senior when I was a 7th grader. So, I remember you vividly.
Yes.
And then Kelly was 2 years older than me.
Yeah, she was a freshman. Yep.
Yeah, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you come to Scotus in '88. You decided to come to Scotus as a 7th grader. What was it like in those, junior high years?
Well, junior high is such a special time of your life.
Oh, yeah.
We still had a junior high principal then. We had Mrs. Shanka, or Vicky Shanka, was our principal. I really remember that we mostly lived on 3rd floor. I don't remember venturing down to mingle with high school very much during that time. The thing I remember most about junior high is, it was before cell phones, obviously, and we passed so many notes and got in trouble for notes, and we had locker buddies. It was a pretty good time, John.
We had those half locker spaces.
Yeah.
But back then, I don't know how many students did you have in your junior high class? You remember?
Well, I graduated with 62. I'm guessing we lost a few along the way, so it might have been a little bigger.
So we started in the 90s. Our class started with 94, I think.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I don't remember how big we were when we
started. So I'm just trying,
because
back then you had those half locker spaces.
Yes.
And you're sharing
so
with
many
someone
kids
a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I think they're full lockers now. So a lot different.
Yep.
And we'll kind of touch on some teachers here in a second. But,
okay.
What kind of activities were you involved in junior high? What did you get involved with?
Well, like the majority of junior high kids, I did volleyball, basketball, track. I kind of remember that we didn't do as many activities as kids necessarily do now. And I also, again, lived on the farm. So we had to be driven in, for a little bit further for all the practices. And both my mom and dad worked in town, of course. So, yeah, I remember doing those 3 sports. I remember getting up really early to come to practice. I think I told you. I remember my mom driving me in her robe and really hoping people didn't see her.
What did your parents do for work?
My dad worked at MPPD for 40 years, I think, in HR. And my mom spent the majority of her career being the office manager for Dr. Johnson, for anybody who remembers him in town.
Sure, yeah.
Yep. And she did work a few years then at the oncology office as well, after Dr. Johnson left.
Oh, really? Wow, I didn't know that. Well, about kind of thinking back on those 2 years, a couple teachers that maybe stick out in your head in junior high that kind of helped shape some things or shape that junior high experience. Yeah,
so we had both Mr. Gary and Mr. Jim Pitts. The Pitts brothers were a big part of our educational career here. Mrs. Picaric, I think, would be somebody that everybody would mention. I mean, fantastic math teacher.
She has been mentioned on every single Scotus alum podcast interview that I've done so far.
And yeah, just a great teacher. Not like a lovey-dovey teacher by any means, but a good teacher.
Yeah. And she was fun, so when we moved back to town and started working at Premier, she was a gym patient of ours. So she came in. So I got to know her on a different level, more personal level. Just a sweetheart. I mean, absolute gold.
Just loved her.
Yeah, she was awesome.
I don't know how many people remember Miss George, but I know my class vividly remembers Miss George. So she really stands out in my mind. Mr. Bowers, these are teachers that were quite a while ago. But we even had Mrs. Jan Wendt, who then went to Lakeview, and we were still taking keyboarding class then to learn how to type and do corrections. And,
She was phenomenal with FBLA.
Fabulous.
Created a huge FBLA program here, and then obviously up at Lakeview continue that.
Yep. Another one I probably should mention is Mrs. Johnson, because everybody knows Mrs. Johnson, and we had her as well in junior high.
Isn't that something though that says a lot about the longevity of the staff?
Oh, my kids had a lot of the same teachers that I had, which is a completely different perspective.
Yeah. It is different talking to them as a parent.
It is, and as a parent, I tried not to put forth any opinions about anybody and let them form their own.
Yeah. Agreed. It was like that because. Girls like, well, what was that person like? When it's like, oh, they were good. They were this, they were that. So it's interesting because they forge their own relationships. And even, Mr. Brockhouse is still here. So it's funny to listen to people talk about Mr. Brockhouse from our era. And he is one of the first teachers that the seniors talk about. Now, I talked to him last night about this. I said, Mr. Brockhouse, you don't realize how many times your name is brought up by different people. So he's impacted a lot of people, too.
Definitely. I think he came when I was a senior.
He did. We were talking about this last night because I told him you were coming on today.
Yeah.
And his first year was your guys' senior year.
Yep. I definitely remember because I sat behind Mary Sieper in that class, and she was a junior then, and she had this way of twisting her hair up and sticking a pencil in it, and I'd sit and watch that the whole time during Mr. Brockhouse's class.
Oh, man. So you get into this high school then. What do you, some teachers that then continued to transition into high school, because you have quite a list here, which is really interesting, and I do want to touch on a couple of these as you bring them up.
Yeah, so I really thought about this. I was hesitant to even start naming teachers because, well, I just didn't want to leave anybody out. I had such a great experience at Scotus, and I think I mentioned too, high school was awesome for me. And I know that's not necessarily the same story for everyone, but the teachers were a big reason why. The first one that came to my mind was Mr. Mahoney. He has not been here now for quite some time either, but he was the cross country and girls track coach. I didn't run cross country, but I ran quite a bit, and he was just great to us. I loved his class. Let's see. Mr. Younger was a great class, loved that class, and probably really kind of got me starting to think about being in a medical career. I mean, those were his classes.
And I've kind of touched on this too, and I think he mentioned, I don't know if you listened to his podcast last week or not, that drop, but the impact that he's had on so many students going, and there's other people too, but I think his class specifically back in our day impacted so many people to go into the medical field, and the way that it was taught, the way that we did things, definitely piqued an interest. So when you mentioned him, I was like, definitely his impact on a lot of people going into the medical field is huge.
Absolutely. The other teacher that had such a huge impact on me was Mr. Lom. I didn't like his class. I really loved math, but I didn't do very well in his class. But I was used to getting A's in most of my classes, and he gave me a B. And I kind of have told my kids that story even. I learned more from getting that B than I did an A in any other class because it made me work harder.
Yeah.
And sometimes those are the best lessons.
Yeah, and our math department was phenomenal too.
It really was. Of course, Mr. Peterson, I mean, in coaching and the classroom, always, Mr. Peterson didn't even have to ever raise his voice. He could just look at you and you knew you needed to try harder.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the look that we talk about. He gives that to the athletes on the court and he gives it to the students in the classroom.
Yep.
You're like, oh crap, he's looking at me.
Yep. Must do better. Mr. Salyard was not married when he was teaching us. So there was no Mrs. Salyard yet. What I think Mr. Salyard for the very most is when I went to college and sat in calculus class and watched everybody else struggle and think it was awful. I thought it was probably my easiest class I had on my schedule.
I agree. I used my high school notes in college. I used my high school calculus notes in college. I kept them, took them to college with me, and used them.
Yes.
Because it was so much better.
It's just a phenomenal asset.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see, Mrs. Tooley, I definitely have on here. Mrs. Tooley's she was a coach for me in volleyball, and then of course PE. Mrs. Tooley, I felt like taught us a lot of subjects our parents weren't willing to talk to us about. So she was brave and she was great. Mr. Sadel, I don't know how many people remember him. Great, I think he taught maybe civics. Something like that. He would give us these tests. It'd be 2 questions, and we'd have to write these ridiculously long essays, for which in high school was a great, great skill to learn. He was also our mock trial coach. Great guy. Mrs. Riley was still here. She's teaching us home ec. She tried to teach me to sew, which unfortunately was not successful. I cannot sew. But we were still sewing. We had Mrs. Byrne for speech. So many people did. And
phenomenal,
and learning to talk in front of people is so important, and I feel like she started that.
She did an amazing job, and now crediting Mrs. Mimic now, who's the speech team coach, and they did. I mean, she's taken that program and took it to a whole nother level.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I had Mrs. Ewers as an actual English teacher here at school before she moved to the college. Her class was really hard, but she definitely made me read books that I would have never chosen.
Yes.
And again, really prepared me. Okay, so this is a big one. I could not leave this out. This was a highlight of my high school career was Miss Kaiser. And I was terrible at art, but she helped me through that. But I did 3 years of German solely so I could go to Europe.
Yes, I did that too.
Yes, did
you?
Yes,
I had her for junior high German. So I chuckled when I read this, and you sent this back to me. I started laughing at work when I read this, actually. Because, she taught, so, we had junior high German.
Yes.
So she was my junior high German teacher.
Okay.
Okay, then you guys had high school German. And that was selfishly my same reason for taking German. I was like, I want to go to Germany because my brother got to go. Mm-hmm. And then she left, and then Mr. Powell came, and that trip went away.
So you didn't get to go?
No, I didn't get to go. But I did. I think I took up to German 3, if I remember. I know I took German 2. I don't know if I took German 3 or not. But that trip went away.
The trip was great. In hindsight, choosing Spanish probably would have been
much
choice.
Better. Yeah, I say that all the time.
Yes.
I mean, I still speak German in the clinic, just kind of off the cuff, phrases and stuff, really simple stuff.
Yes.
And they're like, how do you know that? I
that?
took it in high school. And why did you take that? I was like, I don't know.
Do you know what happens to me? And this is embarrassing. I'll start counting in Spanish or something with my kiddos at work. And all of a sudden, usually about 11 or 12, I switch to German.
Yeah, I know. It's in my head. I do it all the time.
Exactly. So funny.
Yeah.
2 other teachers that really stand out. We had Father Ed Sidoris. He wasn't here a super long time, but I can still hear his laugh. He had the best laugh, and we loved his class.
So did he assist Father Wayne then? Because Father Wayne was a campus minister here yet.
Yes.
Okay.
And I feel like Father Wayne, I wonder if I had Father Sidoris in junior high. I'm not sure how that played out, but
Because he was gone by the time I got here. But Father Wayne got here in 1981, I think.
Yeah. Well, Father Wayne was definitely here when I was here.
Yeah.
So I think Father Sidoris must have been an additional. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Arnold. And he still keeps in contact with so many past students, I think. And he literally was just a really cool teacher.
He was. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know you guys had a strong bond with him. I remember that.
Very.
Very strong.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to leave out Kathy Kruse in the office. She was running this show. And I think maybe I was an office aide my whole senior year. But She was great.
And then you mentioned Mrs. Eichmeyer down in the media center and in the lunchroom.
Oh, absolutely. We loved going there for that reason. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So you kind of touched on some of your classes here. You talked about the math, talked about German, which, I think everybody in our era took German for that reason.
I know.
But my brother said it was one of the best trips ever.
Honestly, it was a great trip. I haven't been back, so I need to go. Yeah.
I would like to go.
Yeah.
And I told Brockhouse this last night too. I said, Mr. Brockhouse, I said, your class, I said, Jill had you for 1 year, and in her favorite classes, she mentioned you. I said, but, and he's picked almost every year to go on the senior retreat with the students. So it says a lot about it. And he plays devil's advocate, which he's really good at. I mean,
even when my kids went to Scotus, he was often the topic of conversation around the supper table.
Same.
Yes. Yeah.
And I tell the girls, I'm like, well, he does that because he's playing devil's advocate, or he's getting you to debate with him.
That's what I always said too. That's his job.
Yes.
That's his job.
He's very good at
Yep.
it.
Yep.
So again, I touched on this earlier. You guys were seniors when I was a 7th grader. So I'm a little 7th grader walking the halls, but I remember your class a lot because I also had a study hall, mixed study hall with a lot of, and you were in my study hall. But like Bill Kretz was in there and some other guys, Justin Guernsey was in there. I just remember study hall was not much of studying at that time with you guys in there.
I'm guessing that teacher hated that study hall.
Yeah, it was fun though. I mean, there was a lot of fun stuff being said. And then I think you were in my QFC. Remember the QFC
I do.
period thing? I'm
yes.
pretty sure you were in that with me as well.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Do you know what's funny about that, John? So I don't remember that you were in those.
Yeah.
And I learned this lesson I was really embarrassed when we moved back to Columbus. I could have named almost everybody who was older than me because you look up to them so much.
Exactly.
But then people would come up and say, well, Jill, she went to Scotus. She was 2 years behind you. And I was like, oh, because I didn't really remember them. And it was embarrassing. But I just have learned you just look up to people so much.
It's the same. I mean, I remember, and I remember some of the classes behind me, but there's a lot of, some people, I was at Scotus when you were a senior. I was like, it's tough to remember, but you definitely remember the older ones.
You do.
But what was your class like? Let's just touch on your class, because I know your class was very close. You're still very, very close with a special group of those girls now still.
Yeah.
So just kind of touch on that a little bit.
So we had an awesome class. We kind of had a unique class because we had coaches' kids. We had Jim Pitts' daughter, Christy. We had John Peterson's daughter, Jesse. Mr. Kobza was our principal, and we had Ryan in our class. We had, of course, smaller groups like everyone has, but we hung out as a larger group so often. And so many people crossed into different activities. Like you weren't just a sports kid, or you weren't just, an arts kid, or we crossed over into so many different activities. And I said in here we were really blessed by the Sand family, because the Sand they had a great pool house. They had a pasture where we could do bonfires, and they were the most gracious, inviting people all the time, and they just let us all come. And so we hung out together a lot, and we had a lot of fun.
That house was still, because you guys were in high school, they lived up on the hill up there, right?
Yep. Okay, so they live where Farringers live now.
Yep.
And then when I was a junior, they moved into their
other house. Okay, yeah, because I knew they were up on that hill most of the time.
Yep.
Well, what was it like? So you mentioned you had Becky Pitts in your class.
Christy.
Or I'm sorry, Christy Pitts.
Yep.
Jesse Peterson. Okay. Ryan Kobza.
Yeah. And Jesse Cush, because his mom was often here teaching.
Linda Cush was here too.
Yep.
So what was it like to kind of see, I guess, specifically probably Mr. Pitts and Mr. Peterson maybe in a different role as okay, they're dad at home. It's probably a little bit different perspective.
It really is, because we were at their homes a lot. I was at Jesse's house a lot, and so I saw Mr. Peterson in a whole different realm or environment, which I don't know if that made it easier or harder. I think I wanted even more to please him then.
Yeah.
But he was a good role model everywhere. Even at home, he was, I see him at the kitchen table all the time, writing out all of his practices in his little perfect writing, and every detail was always written out and planned. Saw him working out almost every night, that I would be there. Just worked hard all the time to be successful.
Yeah. What was Jim like?
Oh gosh. Jim was, well, he was fun. Yeah. He was just really fun. He was just him. He was, I would say, laid back, always had something sarcastic or funny to say when we would walk in. Great guy.
But that was good. That's kind of neat to have that perspective of those guys, because they're just such, they were legends to me coaching, looking up to them. Playing for Jim, looking up to Mr. Peterson, obviously, kind of modeling on my coaching stuff after him. It's kind of neat to
Yeah.
hear your story on a personal level.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So you were involved in some different things and activities. You mentioned you played volleyball for 3 years. You ran track, student council, NHS. I mean, the list here, mock trial, you cheerleader. So kind of touch on those different activities as you were involved in those.
Yeah, so volleyball was great for me. Obviously, since I played it 3 years, I wasn't the best player on the team. But I still just learned so much being a part of the team and working hard. That was the era where we started going to state every year. Excellence was really the only option.
Yeah.
So I would say I was more of a support player. I don't think I honestly ever even made varsity. So by the time I got to be a senior, it's probably pretty much done with that. The class behind me was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the beginning of.
It was.
It was kind of they won that state title in '90 when you were in high school, but
yeah,
but the era coming ahead
was amazing.
Was established by your group, really.
But we had Tiffany Bach, Renee Fear, Jody Shalaha, Sunny, all those girls coming up.
Coming up behind you.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So that was volleyball. Track was, I guess, great.
Well, you finally, you mentioned you ran the 400, the 800,
and the relays.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So track is always fun, but super stressful, and those are really hard races.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're still hard.
They're just gut. Yeah.
With Allie running track this year, it's been we've been to more track meets this year than I really have ever been. But it's fun, and a lot of respect for those athletes that run those events.
Absolutely. Cheer was by far my favorite.
That's what I remember you as a seventh grader, obviously.
Yeah. So cheer was a lot different then. We had freshman, JV, and varsity squads, which was really kind of fun because you really bonded as a group as you moved up. And boy, when we were freshmen, we looked up to that varsity squad so much. And they were still wearing the green and white striped sweaters.
Yes.
We were so
I
excited
remember
to
those.
wear those. Yeah. And when I was an eighth grader, Tracy Duran Wickham, she was our helper in PE, and she was the captain of the cheerleading squad. And I really thought she was about the coolest thing that ever walked the earth.
Isn't that so
Yes.
cool, though?
Yes.
Isn't that so cool? Because obviously you probably know her on a different level now because you see her in town.
She's still really cool.
Yeah. She's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had Jamie Tooley though as our mascot,
Yes.
so she was
I
at
saw
all
that in
of
the
our
yearbook.
games. Yeah, we had so much fun. We went to cheer camp at Wayne State every summer, and we just so many good memories there. Yeah.
You mentioned in kind of your responses to me, the flashlight dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a highlight. I kind of forgot about
Do you
that.
remember that?
Oh yeah, I do. And then when you mentioned, they did it this year,
Yes.
it didn't really register to me until
Yes.
you said that. But, Sarah
Yeah.
Langan and Liz Gonka brought it back this year. It was awesome.
It was awesome. We went to Seward to learn that from their cheerleading squad when I was in high school, and we did it. All the years my girls were cheerleaders, I kept telling them they should do a flashlight dance. They looked at me like I was crazy. And so when it was brought back, I was like, this is so cool.
It was awesome.
Yes.
It was
And
cool.
they incorporated the drum line, which is even
Yes.
cooler.
That was a cool performance.
Yes,
that was a
loved
cool
it.
performance.
Loved it.
I thought, Sarah and Liz have done a really good job, I think, this year
Fantastic.
with the team.
Yes,
Yeah.
fantastic. Yep.
Okay. Well, so you graduate from college. You graduate from Scotus in '93.
I did.
Okay. And you end up going to Kearney for 2 years, and then you transfer over into Creighton.
Yep.
To start your path as an OT.
Right.
Kind of touch on that career path now, because that's where you're at, what you're doing.
Yeah.
How did that interest develop?
Yep. So when I was a junior in high school, one of my best longtime family friends, she didn't go to Scotus, got in a really bad car accident and had a traumatic brain injury afterwards, and was in the hospital, in a rehab hospital for quite a while afterwards. And so I went and visited her numerous times, and it was just a really jarring experience, I think. And I saw the occupational therapist come in numerous times. I knew I wanted to do something medical. I really didn't think I wanted to be a doctor and commit to that kind of lifestyle. And I just watched the occupational therapist be involved in their medical path and to really help them return to what they used to do, which meant everything at that time. And so I started looking into it. People really I didn't know anybody else going into occupational therapy, and everybody asked me what that was when I said I wanted to do it. So at the time, Creighton was the only school in the state that had an OT program. So I went to Kearney first. I wanted to go to Creighton first. My parents said no.
No,
So
probably a smart choice, really.
yeah, right. So I went to Kearney first, and my major at Kearney was pre-OT, which is really not an option anymore. So I went to Kearney. I loved Kearney, really loved it. I was in a sorority there, and great time. I applied after 2 years thinking I probably wouldn't get in. I'd be there another year, and for some reason I got in. And so I had to leave a little earlier than I thought I would.
So was it like so when you got into Creighton, how long was the program at Creighton?
Yeah,
then?
so 3 years.
Okay, so 3.
I was pretty young when I got done with that,
Yeah.
and we were the last class that Creighton graduated with a BS OT.
Oh, okay.
And the very next year they changed it to a doctorate program.
And then very next year.
Yeah.
So you graduated from OT school then in like what, 90?
Well, it should have been May of 98, but I accelerated one semester, and
wow.
because I went to the Dominican Republic in the summer for one of my field works because I wanted to
Gotcha.
do that. So I graduated in December of 97
Wow.
with that degree. So
Wow.
yeah. But Creighton was awesome. Loved Creighton. In fact, I hadn't been back for quite some time, and when we took Liza there to tour, I really remembered how much I loved Creighton. Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned that was the only OT program at the time.
Yep.
Now, College of St. Mary's has an OT program.
Yes.
Any other other
Methodist
programs?
has a program, and UNMC is starting a program as well.
Just
So
brand new?
It's pretty new.
Oh, they have it now?
Like you can do like K-hop and R-hop for OT now.
Oh, okay. Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
So you meet Dale in Omaha then?
I did.
Yeah. Talk about you meeting Dale.
Well, okay. So, I mentioned my mom worked for Dr. Johnson most of
Yes.
her life, and Dr. Johnson was a great man, but he was demanding.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom's takeaway from that was, Jill, no matter what you do, don't ever marry a doctor. And so I got back from the Dominican Republic, and I always tell Dale it was false advertising because I was really blonde and really tan, and I'd been there for almost 5 weeks. And I met him like the very next night. I went out with some friends that were going out to meet with just a group of people I didn't know, and I usually always declined those invitations, and I just decided to go. So
Just went that night.
Met Dale that night, went home and told my roommates, who were Nicole Sand and Stephanie Guyland-Kirkin. They were both
okay.
Scotus,
Okay, yeah.
and told him how annoying he was. And so anyway, I wasn't very eager to go out on a date with him, but he kept persisting, and I eventually said yes. But then when I called my mom, she said, "Oh no, Jill,
Jill, what are
not
you
a medical
thinking?"
student." Yeah. Yeah.
So how long did you guys date? Or
So we started dating in probably like October. Let me think about this. Of 96, and we got married in October of 98.
okay. And so was he at Creighton as well, or was he at the Med
No,
Center?
he was at the Med Center, second year medical student.
Okay.
So when we got married, he was just starting his 4th year.
His last year. Then. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And you had already graduated then?
I had already
from-
graduated. I was working at the Med Center and the NICU and for the Monroe Meyer Institute
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So I never really thought I wanted to do peds, but that was the only job that was open at the time. So I took it, and it was great because that's obviously what I'm still doing.
Yeah.
And then he matched for residency in Lincoln, so we moved to Lincoln then for 3 years.
Okay. And then so how'd you eventually transition back to Columbus? When did you
Yeah.
move to Columbus? How did that transition work?
Yeah. So his program was 3 years, and he graduated like in June of that 3rd year. Well, I never thought I wanted to move back to Columbus. That was not in my plan. I really loved living in Omaha. But we had Drew and Liza while we were in residency. They were only about 14 months apart, and we really wanted some grandparents to help us. Dale really wanted to live in a medical community. They only had one hospital to do rounds. At that time, he was doing rounds every morning, delivering babies, admitting people. Doctor life's a lot different now.
Where was he? So was he was in residency at that time, though, right?
In Lincoln, yep. But then even when we moved here, that was still the model of practice when we moved here.
Okay.
Yeah, so adding docs to the ER and hospitalists have really changed.
Changed it a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys moved back here in what year then?
2002.
Okay.
Yeah, so we moved back then. We moved back like in June. I didn't have a job, and I pretty much decided by probably July that I really missed OT and I missed going to work. And so I honestly had to like beg the hospital for a job. I don't know if they were really looking for another OT at that point. But graciously, they hired me part-time. And then within like about a month, they were really having a need for a pediatric therapy clinic. They were getting lots of referrals. They didn't have a place to see those kids. So I got to be a part of that from the ground up. So that was
From the
really a
ground up.
blessing.
Okay,
Yeah, it was
awesome.
really, like we literally wrote a business plan and presented it.
For
and-
Wiggles.
For Wiggles and Giggles. We named it. I mean, it really was a blessing. Yeah.
Were you? Did you? continue to work in Lincoln then when the kids were born, or did you stay home with them? You
No,
said you wanted to get back into OT, so what was...
Well, just taking the break. I thought when we moved here, maybe I'd take a break for a while, and then I decided maybe not. Yeah.
Okay. So Drew and Liza are born in Lincoln.
Yes.
And then you move, and then Izzy's born here in Columbus.
Yes, 2005.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So what are they all to now? Well, because they all graduated from Scotus. All the kids
all
went through
graduated from Scotus.
Isidore's, right? Went through Isidore's.
Yes.
Came through Scotus.
Yes.
Okay. Graduated.
Yes. Which is fabulous. Yes. Drew graduated from UNK. He is in real estate and owns quite a few homes now
he's
in
killing
Kearney.
it.
Yeah,
He's killing it.
He works really hard. He buys them where they're pretty beat up, and then
He just flips them all.
Flips them.
Does he have a crew that works for him?
He
then?
does. He has
Really?
3, and then he has subs that he regularly works with. And,
Wow.
yeah, it's not really an area that I'm super familiar with. It makes me nervous at times, but yeah, he's done really
He's doing
well.
fantastic,
He's working really
though.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Liza graduated from Creighton, and her degree was in health administration and policy. So Liza's in Chicago this year, and she's doing a year of service through what's called the Amate House, and it's a program run by the Archdiocese of Chicago. She's living with 5 other people in an old convent that's no longer being used as a convent, and they have to live in community, and she is working for the Erie Medical Health Systems, and she goes there and counsels people on their health plans and wellness.
Wow.
That program's going to be over here in a few weeks, and then this fall she's going to move to Baltimore, and she's going to start her master's program at Johns Hopkins. So
my
yeah,
gosh.
so she's
Wow.
really excited
Wow.
to be able to do that.
That's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting, but Scotus is a big part of that. So yeah.
And then what's Izzy up to?
Izzy is finishing up her first year at UNK, and she got the K-Hop for medicine. Loving Kearney, loving it all. She had a really hard time deciding where to go, and it was a good choice for her.
Yeah. And then you mentioned Drew. You mentioned in your response to that Drew's getting married.
He is in October.
Exciting.
Yeah, really
lot of
exciting.
planning?
No, I think it might be easier to be the mom of the groom. I'm
Yeah,
not
sure.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
that is
so.
very true.
Yeah.
Where are they getting married at?
In Kearney.
Okay.
And
That's where she's from?
She is from Spencer, Nebraska, which up
north, yeah.
Yep, up north. Yep. But yeah, they're getting married in Kearney. She is a special education teacher and teaches in Lexington.
Oh, wow. So it's a little bit of a jaunt there.
Yeah, there's quite a number of teachers that live in Kearney and drive there. She's part of a carpool, so she
really?
only drives 1 week out of so many weeks, and they all go together. Yeah.
Well, as you reflect, then because we mentioned the kids grew up in the Catholic school system, came through Scotus. What was having the opportunity to have your kids go through Columbus Catholic schools? What did that mean to you guys as you were parents and transitioning into Columbus?
Like so much. It was a ready-made family for us to drop into. Dale and I have always both worked, and it absolutely takes a village to raise these kids, and sometimes I felt like the village was better at raising my kids than me, to be honest. It's an incredible opportunity for these kids to be a part of this. And I don't know, John, when we were here, we didn't go to Steubenville, and we didn't have JC camp, and to watch the faith formation that has happened with them, and all of the adults in this community who put forth their time and efforts to be a part of these programs as well has been really amazing to me.
I think honestly, as a parent looking back and being an alum like you,
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things we didn't have. I don't recall doing any of that
I don't
stuff
either.
at all. So
I
I
don't
do
either.
feel like the basis of the formation and learning their faith, I feel like these kids are probably more prepared and better prepared and maybe more knowledgeable about that stuff than we were. I think I mentioned this talking to someone about this. I think I took it for granted because I went to Catholic school, Catholic college. My first public university I went to was the Med Center. I think you just kind of took it for granted that things were like that.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
a lot different.
You realize very quickly that they're not. But it's been really cool to see how big the Newman Center programs have been for so many of our students as they've progressed on to college. And my kids still have a very strong faith life independently. They wouldn't have to. When you go to college, sometimes that's really easy to let that fall away.
That's a big fear for me as a
Yeah,
parent.
and that's been amazing to me. It really has been.
Emma's going up to South Dakota State, and they have a Newman Center on campus, which is awesome. Libby's going to College St. Mary's. Newman Center for UNO is right across right across the walkway to them. So they got a lot of opportunities, which is great.
Yeah.
So you guys have been involved in a lot of different things. You've been involved in the church. Obviously Dale's at the Columbus Family Practice. You're a supervisor at Wiggles and Giggles. What's kind of those things, important moments for you guys as you've been able to build your family and build your careers in Columbus.
Yep. Well, I mean, Columbus Family Practice has been outstanding. Dr. Klutman, Dr. Zadina, Dr. Rosenquist, like, they just welcomed us right into that family. That family has grown a lot since we have been here, but there were days when my kids were sick and they went to work with Dale and laid underneath the desk in Dr. Zadina's office and hung out for the day. And it wouldn't be unheard of to hear that Dale's nurse was taking my girls to dance and whatnot. So, I mean, just wonderful, wonderful people that we've encountered. And likewise, Wiggles and Giggles is truly another family to me. I honestly didn't know if I wanted to, work forever. And I just can't imagine not seeing those people every day.
You guys are pretty tight. You got a tight group over there. And it's
great
very similar
group.
to our group at work, too, at Premier. We're so tight.
Yes,
so close. It makes going to work fun because it's like you don't dread going in the door.
That's what I say
laughter.
All the time. When this isn't fun, then it's not good, anymore. But it's great.
You mentioned Father Joe, too. Talk about Father Joe's impact on you and Dale.
Yeah. So Dale grew up Lutheran, a very strong Lutheran family, great faith. And we started our marriage classes with Father Joe. We were living in Omaha at the time, but we drove back here to do classes with him. And I don't know, about the third class in, Dale asked Father Joe what the process would be for him to, convert to Catholicism. And I think I about fell off my chair because I would have never
just out of the blue.
We had never talked about it. I would have never asked him to do that because I had no intention of doing that myself. And I just assumed we would just progress that way. And Father Joe was wonderful. Absolutely no pressure. In fact, spent his time saying all the great things about the Lutheran faith as, we progressed. So Father Joe's been a huge influence on our marriage, on our family. He's baptized our kids. He's come to all their graduation parties. He's been really
awesome.
great. He convinced, for the longest time we were being asked to go to CEC. Dale was super nervous about that, really didn't want to do that. And Father Joe called him one afternoon. He got off the phone, said he was going to CEC. Really? And I was like, what? And he was like, I can't say no to Father Joe. Yeah. And it ended up being a really impactful experience for him.
That's one thing I have not done yet.
I wasn't as intimidated because I felt like maybe going to Catholic school, we had gone to different retreats and things. He was very intimidated about going.
Was he?
And truly, it's a great experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah. Father Joe came when I was a fifth grader at St. Anthony's.
Okay.
That was his first year.
Yes.
In 90. I think about that. I mean, the impact he's had on a lot of people.
So many people.
Amazing. Well, you were what kind of transitioned into a big role that you had at Scotus too, as a parent now. So you were the Gala co-chairs in 2016 with Joe and Stacy Shohan and the Sliva family.
Yep. So everybody had told me if you're going to say yes to being a committee for Gala, to make sure you do it with your good friends. And they asked us to do it. And shockingly, I didn't know the Slivas or the Shohans. But we just decided to say yes because honestly, we felt like we were going to keep getting asked, so we might as well just get involved. And we had so much fun with that. When we were vice chairs, I think we were with, and I know Allen's were on it. Anyway, so we had a lot of fun that year, and then our year was great. It's a lot of time, but we had a really good time doing it.
Yeah.
So that was great. I think we took maybe a year off, and then Lisa Turnus twisted my arm to start being the decorators for that event. So we started that then, and we did that until last year. So Lisa and I and Brian and Dale have been doing the decorating for it since then.
Until this first year Gala was the first year you didn't do it?
Right.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Isabel and Kaylee graduated, then we said we were done. Actually, I think our husbands might have said we were done.
Yeah. But that's probably a good. I mean, it's a good time to do it because. I mean. You got to step away from things at times so other people get involved.
Absolutely. There were a lot of years that Lisa and I had great ideas, and we would tell Brian and Dale, and they were like, you want us to do what?
Yeah.
But they always came around. They always worked hard on that. Yeah.
Well, you've done a good job. You did a great job with that.
Thanks.
I mean, you did a great job with that. So. And you mentioned the decorating this year was fantastic.
It was amazing. I mean, amazing.
That was fun. That's the first time that I've been to the Gala in a while. That's pretty cool.
Well, we thought maybe this was our year to take a year off because we had been so involved for so long, but then we couldn't quite imagine not coming. Yeah. And then when we left, we were like, we had so much fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was
really a good
fun.
time. They did a good job with that.
Yep.
So, Well, we're kind of getting towards the end here. As you reflect, then let's just I like to do a couple of reflections here.
Okay.
Just what impact has Scotus had on you, presently, personally, and your family? If you can kind of think about that.
I really think my experiences at Scotus instilled a lot of mental toughness in me. I tell my kids all the time not to be afraid of hard. Like, you can do hard things. I know you can do hard things. You just have to want to do them. So to find what you love and go for it. And we talk about it all the time. And I think it just made me tough, and that you can have fun along the way. It's really fun to be something that's bigger than yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That the work ethic part is kind of, you have to work here. You have to work
You do.
to be successful.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this a unique place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so kind of on the other side of that, then as an alum then, so you've been an alum, you're a graduate, your kids have been here, you're a parent, you've been a huge role. What makes you proud to be an alum of Scotus? You know, people are like, hey, where'd you go to high school? I went to Scotus. Oh, tell me, what makes you proud?
I just think Scotus is synonymous with excellence or even family, both of them. And they both make me proud because I feel like I was a part of that machine moving forward. And I was successful doing it, and it kept propelling me to the next stage. And my kids, it kept propelling them to the next stage to be successful at the same time with your faith walking right beside you. Because none of it means anything if you don't have that, you know, integral part walking right beside you.
I like how you phrase that. It's the machine going forward, and everybody has a role in that. Whether you're a 7th grade student, your role, you're a teacher, you're an administrator, you're an alum, whatever. I mean, everybody's got a role in this. Like you said, this machine going forward.
Right.
And so that's a good way to just kind of wrap it up. Then, how would you describe Scotus Central Catholic and Columbus Catholic Schools in one word? Then,
I think I decided family. I thought about it for a long time, but everyone here truly has become my family. And I've noticed as you get onto the next stage of your life, like some of those people fade away and you add more people to your family, just depending on what stage of life you're at. And I think also, you know, we always say it's a great day to be a Shamrock. It's always a great day to be a Shamrock. But as I reflect every night about my day, some days are really great, but some days are really bad. And I feel like that Shamrock family is with you on the great days, and they're with you on the bad days. Yeah. And you never have to question that.
Absolutely. It's a great answer.
Yeah, thanks.
Great answer. Well, Jill, thank you for your time coming in today. It was really great to sit down with you, and I hope it wasn't as scary as you thought it might be.
Well, I told my kids you twisted my arm until it broke.
I did. I heard it snap. It snap.
Yep.
No, but it was great. It was great for you to come in, share your story, and the journey just through the different roles that you've had. So definitely really appreciate your service to Scotus over the years and continued support of Columbus Catholic Schools.
Yeah, you as well, John. Thanks for doing these.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, if you're interested in hearing more Shamrock Green Room Podcast episodes, subscribe to us and rate us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Make sure to follow us on our social media channels, Scotus Central Catholic on Facebook, X and YouTube, and Columbus Catholic Schools on Instagram. If you have some ideas for some guests on the podcast, please email me at coachbrez@gmail.com. Thank you again for joining us in the Shamrock Green Room.